Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by Dalsimer. So glad you guys could be with us on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be part of our chat. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. We have a doozy for you guys today. This is going to be, I was just saying to Allie, I think it's going to be one of those conversations that's needed, but it's not always easy. So I hope you guys are strapped in and would love to hear your thoughts. We're now live on the Amazon side, but it's okay not to be fabulous every day. Going to type you guys in a welcome message over there for you guys on Amazon. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button if you haven't done so already. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You also will see Allie's book. Of course, that's based on this show. This is our third and final season about her book. And it's a book, if you have not gotten your copy, it's one you guys will definitely read. I think want to discuss with others, but also see where you are in the beginning of it and where you are at the end. And I hope that's part of the conversations you're able to have with it. Allie, thank you so much for the time. Glad to have you back.
I'm excited to be here as always, Cyrus. I love having our conversations and I love diving into this book.
Well, look, speaking of that, I want to say hello to Dana, who's watching us over on Facebook. Dana sent me a message. Allie, forgot to tell you when we were having her. She's like, I just discovered the series. I
Oh,
have to go back.
great.
And I was like, that's great. And I tell people this happens, I think, with everything. There's always people who are just discovering. So Dana, hope you enjoy not only this show, but also the others as well. Sandra, hey Sandra, joining us there from Ohio over on there on IG. I have people from all over. So I was just saying to you, Allie, that this is, I think, going to be a tough conversation for some. Hey, there's Dana there. Hey, Dana, good
Hey.
to see you over there. This is going to be a tough conversation for some, but I think a necessary one. So you were just saying there's something interesting. I think it's a great way for us to start off. You said this whole book is like that. Talk to us about what that's been like for you to reflect on the tough conversations you've had to have with yourself, and now how you've been able to share them in this book.
Yeah, this book really was a cathartic process for me in the end, which is not, how it had originally started out, but evolved that way because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I needed. And this chapter in particular, as we were just discussing, was really hard because, admitting your foibles and frailties and shortcomings to loved ones is really tough.
Right.
Putting them out there for public consumption is just a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those chapters where, and there are several in here where I share very openly, about where I have not behaved as we would want to if we could, go back and redo it, we would, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was in a very bitter place for a while. So yeah, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword sharing these things. I feel very I feel very blessed that the messages are landing with people.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because I'm just being truthful and authentic. I mean, I'm just bearing my soul. But the other side of that sword is I'm being truthful and authentic and bearing my soul. It's
Yeah.
like, here, stab, So, so it's tough, but it's rewarding, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it does. And let's stay with that for a second. Hey, Danielle, good to be able to see you over there on IG. Glad you could be able to join us. Brayley, hey, Brayley, good to be able to see you. Brayley says, yes, it is. I want to talk about being honest with yourself because you and I were talking about, Allie, how, if people had met me 22 years ago when I first started writing poetry and stuff here in Mississippi, I'm definitely different than I am today. What was it like for you to think about the Allie Dalsimer that actually wrote this book and the Allie Dalsimer that's now discussing this book?
Well, the Allie Dalsimer that wrote this book cried every day, every single day, and struggled every day to get up. Like every day it was like, okay, I'm getting out of bed and I am doing something. And I wrote a list. These are the three things that, for me, my magic number was 3. These are the 3 things I'm going to accomplish. And if I did more than that, that's bonus. But if I did those 3 things, that's where I was trying to, hold my, and simple things. I mean, I remember one day my to-do list was shower. Today I'm going to shower, right? Like, because I just couldn't bring myself to do anything more.
Yeah.
That was and I think what's important about that is that I learned to grace myself that kindness and the patience that I needed while I was going through a very dark and tumultuous time in my life. And the Allie Dalsimer of today is, my to-do list is very different, right? My to-do list every day, and I still have a to-do list with 3 things on it at least. Actually, the list usually has like 20 things on it, but if I do 3 things, then I feel good. In fact, just today, Cyrus, I was like, I really needed to do, there was just something I wanted to get done. I was like, you know what? No, because we had our podcast earlier about so what's your process? And then I did something between, and then I'm doing this, and then I've got one other thing I'm going to do. And I thought, you know what? I might just watch a movie after that.
Good deal. Good deal. Brayley on IG says, that's a fantastic idea. I'm starting that today. The power of 3. Brayley, Allie, I'm realizing you and I have more and more in common. People always tell me, my mom says all the time, Cyrus, every time you always have 3 things. When I have something to say, it's always 3 things. So that's pretty cool. Well, that leads us then into why this message, I think, is going to be difficult for some, Allie, and then I think going to be healing for others. And the difficult part, and I'll just say this before I have you read it, is that we have to, it's so easy for us, right, to look at our lives and say, I'm not where I want to be because of, right? Either because of our color or where we live or because of what someone did to us, right? This chapter is really about, in my mind, and I think our audience will see when you read it, about really being honest with the person in front of you about what happens next. What was that like for you, just even before getting to this chapter, Allie, to be able to realize that? Because by the time people have gotten to this part in the book, we've seen how Allie deals with being a daughter, with being a wife, being a mother, being a candidate. What was it like for you to get to this point in the book and to think about where Allie Dalsimer was at that point?
There was a morning that I woke up and I literally, for some reason, started singing the words to the Michael Jackson song, looking at the man in the mirror.
Man in the mirror, yeah.
I'm going to change my ways.
Yeah.
I literally sang that to myself in the mirror because I realized that the only person I was hurting by wallowing was myself. The universe, the world, my former colleagues, they didn't care. I wasn't hurting them. I wasn't doing anything to them, but I was hurting myself, and I was having a ripple impact, a negative one, on those that were closest to me, who loved me and who depended on me and who were worried about me.
Right.
And so I guess you can say, Michael Jackson helped. And really that was a lot of what was going on in the time when I'm writing about this.
So let's get into it, Allie, so our audience can kind of have an idea. Again, for those of you who have the print edition of Allie's book, today's message is found on page 93. And Allie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. It's a little bit long, so I'll try to read quickly. Blame is the outgrowth of the need to feel control in one's life. W. Martin, Tao of Forgiveness. It's easy and self-comforting to decide external factors prevent our success. That's not to say external factors never impede us. They do. More often than not, however, what holds us back is us. Rather than acknowledge this truth, we blame others. We've all been guilty of feeling anger and resentment towards other people or circumstances. I felt it when my job managing the Natural Resources Program at the Defense Department was eliminated by a political appointee. A 30-year career, gone. If I'd played the political game, biding time patiently and not pushing for policies that were unpopular with the current administration, I might still be in that job if I hadn't trusted a former colleague, someone I thought was a friend, and instead personally verified a few facts. My future might have taken a different course. Although I received several job offers, as one does when one has worked in a field for decades, I accepted none. Instead, I opted to take time to think and to heal, time to spend with my kids and my mom. Re-engaging in an environmental career felt too much like doubling back, like accepting defeat. Rather than fight the prevailing current, I chose to flow like water over a streambed of pebbles and see where life took me. The time spent reflecting helped me accept responsibility for my actions, only my actions, recognizing that my choices had consequences. This does not diminish the roles others played in ending my career, but does allow me to see that the blame did not lie solely with them. Blaming others for barriers put in our paths rather than embracing our potential diminishes our horizon and embitters our existence. Accepting that we are responsible for our decisions and that we cannot control external factors is the first step to taking charge of our destinies, especially once we realize control is an illusion. If not for my career ending, my path may not have veered into the world of political campaigns. When that policy door closed, the political window opened. 6 months after leaving DoD, my passion for progress on climate, healthcare, and education pushed me into action, and I announced my congressional candidacy. Politics turned out to be a viper pit and not an arena that suited me. Nevertheless, if I hadn't tried, I might now feel plagued with regrets. Instead, as the politics window shut, the writing door opened, and in stepping through, I found my calling. When we learn what our heart desires, what it needs, and that need is for an intangible and important objective, we will find a way to achieve it. If you've read The Boys in the Boat, you'll understand. If you've seen Rocky, you'll understand. We are all born with the means to achieve our dreams, but we must work for it. We cannot control other people or world events. We can only control who we are and what we do. Once we accept that, we cease to play the blame game and can focus our energies on maximizing our potential. Poof, you're happy. No, it doesn't work that way. True happiness comes from within. We can't rely on other people or external circumstances to make us happy. If you take the time to quiet your mind and reflect, you will hear your inner voice speak to you. This voice will guide you. The universe will help you.
Wow, love that. So powerful. And I think it's such a great reminder. Allie and I had a great conversation about this chapter, y'all, before you guys joined us for the live show. But Allie, there's one thing that stood out to me, and I purposely didn't mention it to you when we were talking earlier, because it goes into something that you and I talked about earlier in a previous interview when I was with Kyle and yourself. Because you said something that I thought was so different for you. You said that after this happened, you say, although I received several job offers, as one does when one has worked in the field for decades, I accepted none. Instead, I opted to take time to think and to heal. I want to talk about that. As someone who is known to rush from one thing to another, what is it that helped you not to do it in that time?
It's going to sound a little self-serving, but my job was kind of at the pinnacle of what I could achieve before becoming a senior executive service.
Okay.
And I didn't want to work for me. I didn't want to take a job where I would have been basically, I mean, the job was eliminated, but I knew they would have to redo it because complying with laws such as the Endangered Species Act, Migratory Bird Treaty Act, et cetera, these are legal requirements. And regardless of what, the current administration at the time was trying to do, which was basically dismantle all environmental protections, I knew that the law would, unless they changed all those laws, which seemed unlikely, they would fill that position. And I really honestly didn't want to work for me. I just felt like that's just 2 steps back and I don't want to do it.
Got it. Hello to you, Rome. Good to be to see you over there on IG. I appreciate you stopping by the program over there. Well, and I thought it was interesting, though, because I think for some people, though, Allie, the reason why I bring that up, because to keep their mind off of what happens, sometimes they do rush into something else. One relationship ends, they rush into another relationship. One thing ends, they run into something because they don't want to sit with that. You chose to sit with it. So
yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
It's sort of like, so I feel like there's 2 kinds of people in the world. Well, you could use that in a lot of different ways, but there's the people who will take the most direct route and they'll sit at a traffic light. And then there's the other people who are like, I'm not sitting in traffic. I'm not stopping at the light. I'm going to drive all the way around. It's going to take me 10 more minutes, but I'm not going to have to stop or deal with traffic and I will get there. But I'll have seen more scenic routes and had a less stressful drive. And I have definitely become like that latter person. You know,
Oh,
I'm the person who I'm not interested in sitting in traffic and dealing with people honking and whatever. It's like, no, I'll just drive through a neighborhood or I'll take a country road or whatever it is
interesting.
because, you know, unless I have to be somewhere at a specific time and I haven't left early enough, which is a planning preparation issue, which I try to avoid,
Hmm.
um, then it's the journey, right?
Gotcha.
And I honestly didn't want to go back into the natural resources world. I felt angry. I felt bitter. I can say I didn't want to work for someone like me. I think that was a little bit later on, to be honest.
Okay.
In the immediate aftermath, I was pissed. I was so angry, right?
Yeah.
I was treated unfairly. And that's
Hmm.
just objective truth. That's not me, but that's just objective truth. I was treated
Yeah.
really unfairly. Um, and I was let go without cause.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to be in that negative environment. I don't want to be around people who don't want me around.
Gotcha.
And that wasn't really the case for my colleagues. It had to do with leadership.
Hmm.
Um, But I don't know. And I remember I have the friend Liz, and she came over and she was like, you don't want to wait too long because those offers will dry up. If you wait too many months, those offers are going to dry up. And I really sat in that space. Like I really sat with that. And I was like,
Hmm.
and that's when I shifted gears and was like, you know what? I don't want to go back and work for me. I don't want to go back at a lower position or an equivalent position. If I was going to do anything, I would want to advance.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I thought about it briefly. I actually applied for one job with a large nonprofit group, which was a director position, which was something that would have been really interesting. And then I was like, after spending time with my kids and my mom and having a flexible schedule and not having to get up at 6 in the morning to get dressed to commute to work and all that other stuff, I was like, kind of like the flexibility here.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and
I
that's when
love
I
that.
ended up deciding to start my own business because I really just enjoyed not having to deal with the rigors and structures and stress. My job was really stressful. You get to any it doesn't really matter what field you're in. You get to a certain level and the stress ramps up. And I think
Yeah.
that that's something that certainly when I was just starting out and I looked at like executive directors and whatever, I was like, oh, they make all this money and they do so great and they hardly even do anything. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. You move up and there's a reason they make the money they do because the amount of stress you deal with is just outrageous. And the responsibility you have and the impact your decisions have,
Right.
they're significant.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I really need to jump back into that rat race?
Yeah.
Mm, no. And besides, I was really enjoying being with like my kids, and
Yeah.
it was a really special time.
So you had that time then to think about what really mattered to you in the moment.
Yeah. Way to summarize that in a cool nutshell.
Yeah. Hello to you, Dr. Bear. I'm going to go to see if she says hello as well over there on Facebook. So that brings us into the audience then for this message, Allie, because again, it's very easy, as we talked about earlier, to blame others. You could have blamed, as you mentioned, you had reason to feel a certain way. And not saying that you didn't feel, but you didn't allow yourself to sit in that. What do you want people to know about that choice for themselves? That maybe something happened that they honestly had no control over, right?
Hmm.
What do you want them to know about, again, how they can embrace their power and how they choose to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important about the situation I offered as an example that I hope others will apply to their own lives is that yes, there were circumstances that were beyond my control that negatively impacted me. Those are facts. However, I wasn't blameless. It takes two to tango, right? No matter how thinly that slice of bread is sliced, it's like two sides. All those expressions. The point is that I also helped feed into that. There were things I did. I trusted someone I really shouldn't. It's which is sad because my mantra is trust but verify.
Yeah.
Um, and and I pushed in ways that I knew were unpopular. And there were other things. And the point is that regardless of your circumstance, you always have a choice. You always have a choice.
Mhm.
And with exceptions, I need to reframe that. If you're a person in a war-torn country. If you're a child in Gaza, you don't have a lot of choice. But in the bell curve, in the 80% of that bell curve, we always have a choice. And if someone does or says something, how we choose to interpret it, how we choose to react, how we choose to proceed, those things are squarely within our control. And I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee, that's why I mentioned the stream flowing over the pebbles. That
Yeah.
was Bruce Lee, right? Go with the flow. And he was like, if you flow like water over the rocks, you will get to where you're going. And you can't let other people get into your mindset. I remember there was a story he told about when he was on set, when he was filming the Green Lantern. And here he is, Bruce Lee, famous. Plus he's in, the Green Lantern, which was a very popular show in its day. And he was standing waiting for his car. The valet had gone off to get somebody else's car. And a guy walked up, some, guy in a three-piece suit, and tossed him the keys and said, here, it's whatever, and told him to get his car. And, instead of getting outraged, like, what are you talking about? I am Bruce Lee. I am an internationally famous whatever. He was just like, I don't remember what he said, but he was just like, I couldn't let that get into my headspace. That was that guy's problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, how many people would do that? How many people in that situation who are so disrespected would choose just to not let it affect them in any way? And I think about that moment a lot. And I thought about it I should say I thought about it a lot in that time that I was going through. I feel now I embrace it more, trying not to let other people get into my headspace. But yeah, that's really what I want people to take. Like, people can't control what you think. They can't control what you feel. Only you control that. And you do that through your filter. So yes, there are things that are going to happen to you, and maybe they're pretty crappy. But you're an equal and active participant in the relationship of that situation. And I really hope people will just embrace that they have value, they are worthwhile, and that they can choose to either let themselves be angry and bitter, or they can choose to move on and pursue their goals.
Yeah. It goes to what you say actually in this chapter, Allie, because again, where the choice is, you say, once we accept that we can't control what other people, the world does, you say we cease to play the blame game and can focus our energies on maximizing our potential. And that stood out to me because I think so many people become paralyzed because of the blame. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
They may have been told they weren't good at something or what they shouldn't be doing, and they sat with that instead of realizing that they could choose to move forward, giving so much power to that person. So I think that's such a great reminder. For yourself, though, as you were reading this chapter today and you think about examples like you mentioned, what would you say to our audience for them maybe think about? Is there maybe thinking about a way that they felt wrong, or even if they have felt paralyzed in the situation that they're in now?
Let it go, right? I'm so bad with these song lyrics and stuff. Let it go. It's the Frozen thing, right? Let it go. Like, you
Yeah.
have to let it go. You have to just let it. It's hard. It's not easy. It's like the Nike Just Do It. So easy, except for that doing it part, right?
Yeah.
But you really do have to let it go. You cannot control other people. You cannot control if someone says to you, you are a loser and a terrible person and you will never succeed. You can't control them saying that, but you
Right.
can filter it. And instead of falling into that negativity bias where we believe those negative things, you can say, you know what? You're wrong. And you don't have to say it to them because they don't matter. That person does not matter. You don't need that person in your life. Let them go. Let the situation go. Let the words go, and recognize, you know what? I actually am smart, talented, creative, whatever you are, whatever you feel, and embrace your own internal fabulosity.
Yeah.
Embrace that, because I really, truly, genuinely believe that we all have what we need inside of us to succeed in whatever our chosen endeavors are, because That's just the way the world works. If you weren't meant to do something, you wouldn't have been given those talents, those drives, those thoughts. And if you have that talent, you have those drive, you have those thoughts, you have that desire, then that was what it was meant for you. So
Right.
open yourself to that and let all those, let the negative people and places of your life go.
Yeah. It's a great reminder for us. Again, everyone, the book is It's Okay Not to Be Fabulous Every Day. This is episode 3 of our final season, going through Allie's book. For you guys on Amazon, you can get the book in print, the Kindle edition, or the audiobook as well. For those joining us on the simulcast, you'll find the link there too. Pastor McLaughlin, hello to you over there on IG. Glad to have you. Another great one today. This was a deep one, Allie. So really appreciate the time. Let our audience know how to stay connected with you and how to sign up for your newsletter.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. You can find me on all the socials, on my website, and on YouTube under my name, Allie Dalsimer. And sign up for my newsletter by going to alliedalsimer.com/newsletter. It comes out every week, alternating between really 5 minutes of fabulosity, where I share tools, tips, and tricks for how to deal with life's ups and downs. And then the other is author news. And check out our podcast. So what's your process? Season 2 launches this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. We've got an amazing lineup for you.
All right. So, Allie, another great one. Looking forward to next week's show.
Me as well, Cyrus. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And if you have any questions or ever want to talk, I'm here.
There you go. I am as well. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.